There's just something about Taylor Jenkins Reid books. Like, I don't know what she puts in it, if it's crack. Welcome to this video. Hi. Hello everyone. Welcome back to this channel. Today I'm going to be doing my favorite books of 2021. This video is super late. We're now in May, 5 months into 2022. Who cares about 2021? Am I right? So I considered not making this video anymore because of how late it is, but I did make a worst books of 2021 video, and I just don't want to leave the year on a negative note. I feel like I need to bring in the counterpart to that video, which is positive, and those are the books that I loved, the books that I want to talk about, the books that I actually enjoyed. Better late than never, because I love them and I want to share the experience. So that's what we're doing today. I'm not quite sure how many books I have on this list right now. I'll probably put it on the screen because I don't feel like counting them right now. All of them are going to be in the order in which I read them throughout the year. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle. This is an adult romance and I rated this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I was reading the notes that I took while reading this book and I was literally laughing out loud because I was remembering how fun and hilarious this book is. So if you don't know what this book is about, this is like a second chance romance where Naomi and Nicholas are engaged, but they are not happy in their engagement. Naomi specifically, the book is in her perspective. She really is not in a good place with this man. She's not in a good place with this relationship, with this engagement, and she wants out. So they kind of get into this situation where one of them has to call off the wedding. The person that calls off the wedding is going to have to pay for everything that's already been paid for. And since neither one of them want to do that, they are doing everything in their power to annoy the hell out of the other in order to get them to the point where they're like, I can't take this anymore. Let's just end the engagement. I'll pay for it, whatever. So the book starts off kind of mopey and depressing and pessimistic, but does a complete 180, like 80 to 90 pages into it. Once the main character decides to make the most of her situation, she's not gonna mope around anymore. She is going to make that man's life miserable and have fun with it. And then it becomes vindictive, spiteful, but really fun. I love Naomi and Nicholas together, both as individuals and as a couple. It was just so nice seeing them fall back in love with each other, being introduced to them where their relationship is in a very dire state, to watching it bloom and prosper again, and you know, finding their way back to each other. There was just something about it that just, it hit the spot for me. It genuinely made me believe in love again. A lot of people complain about Naomi being too negative, but I honestly think it made a lot of sense. We're meeting Naomi at a point in her life where she wants nothing to do with the man that she is engaged to. Like, we're pretty much meeting her at this meme. This is her era. Like, damn bitch, you live like this. So it's pretty dire, and she's been living like this for like 11 months. So she's clearly fed up. And if you've been living like this for 11 months, you're not gonna be happy-go-lucky, all positive and shit. So it made sense for her to be negative and bitter and childish and immature. I think that context matters, and within this context, she was justified. As someone that loves negativity a moderate amount, and the fact that it made sense with her situation, I was completely fine with it. I would definitely recommend this book if you enjoy second chance romance and soft men. I want to talk about Nicholas's character a lot more, but I don't want to spoil anything, so all I'm gonna say is that he's soft and I love him. Now that is a man. I was literally like Kiki Palmer meme, being introduced to Nicholas like 30% in. This was me.
I hate to say it, I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is. Sorry to this man.
And then this was me by the end of the book.
I love him. I know him, y'all. I know him. I know this man.
I love that man. This heavily relies on the miscommunication trope. So if you don't like that, maybe skip this book, but I still think it was done well, in my opinion. This book was great. Also, it deserves smut. Like, so many books that I read last year, I could have done without the smut. This one, it's a crime that it doesn't have it, but it's fine. The next book that I'm going to talk about is This Is How You Lose the Time War. Read this book immediately if you love sci-fi, poetry, love letters with theatrical and extravagant declarations, and romance. Read it. This is the book for you. I don't really know how to explain this book. It's like a sci-fi time-traveling romance where these two agents on opposite sides of a war start communicating with each other. So they start leaving letters for each other as they're traveling throughout time. At first, first, their letters are very competitive and kind of egging the other on because they both are very good at what they do and they're both really confident in their abilities, and they slowly start getting to know each other and falling in love. With that being said, forewarning, you're not gonna grasp everything that goes on in this book, mainly because of the sci-fi elements and the time traveling. A lot of it is confusing. Sometimes you're like, I don't know what's going on. If you can push through those and just read it for the romance and the letters and the way that the story is crafted, I think you'll enjoy this. The writing is very theatrical and a little eccentric, so if you like that, I think you'll like this book. And also, it's pretty short. While there were confusing bits at times, I think I was able to grasp what was going on, at least like the overall gist. I think that's why I was able to enjoy it regardless. I really love this book. Bottom line, it wasn't a 5-star because I do like fully understanding what I'm reading, but nonetheless, solid 4.5 out of 5 stars. Definitely check it out. The next book on my list is Here the Whole Time by Vitor Martins. This is translated fiction. Pretty sure it was originally published in Brazil. This is a young adult romance. 5 out of 5 star, wholesome, sweet, coming of age without being dumbed down, but also without being overly pretentious and super mature. Just like the perfect balance of everything. Also, how gorgeous is this cover? Like, do you see this? 2 boys, 15 days, 1 awkward vacation. It's basically about Philippe anticipating winter break, but his plans for a peaceful and relaxing winter break away from the teasing that he's subject to because of his weight are kind of thwarted because he finds out that his next door neighbor, Kyle, the boy who he's had a crush on since forever, is actually going to be staying with them during the winter break. Kyle's parents are going on a vacation, so Philippe's mom agrees to have him stay with them during winter break. Philippe is basically an anxious wreck when he finds out because he has a lot of body insecurity issues and he's just an awkward teenager in general, and that does not bode well when sharing a room with your lifelong crush. I thought this book was so cute. There was just something so natural about how the story was introduced and progressed. Like, everything just fell into place, and also I love how the characters felt really genuine and real, like people that I could know in real life and be friends with. I related a lot to Philippe's character. The last time I related that much to a character or a story in general was To All the Boys I've Loved Before, and this book just brought back that feeling. It was just so incredibly relatable in so many ways. Like, a lot of times Philippe would say something and I was like, yeah dude, same, exactly, you get it. He gets it. And the romance is also super sweet. It was innocent, it was soft, it was cute, it wasn't corny, it was just normal. One thing that I really loved about this book also, aside from the romance, is the relationship between Philippe and his mom. That was just such a nice and wholesome relationship. In my Goodreads review, I said that this book felt like a warm blanket, and I still stand by that. Okay, this next one is gonna be long. It is The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. This is an adult sci-fi fantasy. Solid 5 out of 5 stars. If I could give it infinite amount of stars, I would. This book is so grossly underrated, it irks me. It just doesn't make sense to me. How do I even begin to talk about this book? Like, where do I even start? Listen, I'm gonna try and give you a synopsis, but this is one of those books where you just have to dive on in.
I'm Roger, and I'm famous for saying, dive on in!
Just go straight into it, blind, without knowing anything. I would say, aside from checking the trigger warnings, to just
dive on in!
Dive on in. If you like sci-fi, political intrigue, and so much fucking pining, read this book. Also, this is a sapphic sci-fi fantasy with 2 non-white characters, so what more can I say? What more do you want? Hi, so this is the next day because my camera died and then I didn't feel like filming. So we were talking about The Space Between Worlds. I'm gonna attempt to give like a really shallow synopsis on this book. This is a really hard book to explain, but I'm gonna try my best. We're introduced to this world where there is like a bunch of alternate universes, so different Earths. There's over 300 Earths recorded, and we follow our multiverse traveler Kara, who has died in a lot of them. The reason why this makes Kara special is because you can't travel on another Earth where your counterpart is still alive, and that's why Kara is important to Earth Zero's government, because they're able to use her so that she can collect information from the different worlds for them. And she's not the only one. There are a few other travelers as well, and it's an actual job that they do. But obviously, even though these travelers are well compensated, there's always a catch. So there is a bad side to being a traveler, but I'm not gonna get into it. I'm gonna let you figure that out when you read the book. That's pretty much what the Space Between Worlds starts as. Please do not let my shitty attempt at a synopsis deter you from reading this book. It's really so incredible. Like, I cannot sing this book's praises enough. How does this have a 3.98 average on Goodreads? Like, y'all are lying. This book is sapphic, it's sci-fi, there's time traveling involved, political intrigue, and there are so many plot twists. Honestly, so much happens in this standalone that I'm just amazed by the sheer talent it takes to weave such a complex story and wrap it all up in one book. Like, this book is barely 300 pages. Like, while you're reading, you'd think this book is like 500 pages long, and it's barely 300 pages. Not one page was wasted. There was always something going on, and it always gave way to something else, and it always progressed the plot in some type of way. All around, overall, it's just chef's kiss. There are a lot of gory descriptions. There's a lot of death. It deals with domestic abuse, drug abuse, parental neglect, just a lot of trauma in general. So I definitely would check the trigger warnings. This book touches on a lot. There's commentary on race, class, sex work, immigration, technology, and greed and power, alternate universes, how one thing can completely change the course of your life. And I love how it was able to tackle all of these topics, but it was structured in a way where you didn't even realize it, because it was just so natural and flowed well with the progression of the story. Instead of being info dumpy or super overbearing and preachy, everything was just revealed piece by piece when you were supposed to know them. And that's what I meant when I said that the Space Between Worlds doesn't waste a single page. This book had an actual gorilla grip on me. I was hooked every single page, every single chapter. So remember what I said about the pining? We don't get a lot of the romance, but it's honestly so beautiful. Like, the yearning, the angst, the longing. Micaiah Johnson, you know exactly what you did, and you was hella wrong for that. This author is an evil person for doing that to me. But anyway, because we barely got fed in the romance department, I was always thinking about Dell. She's the love interest. I was always thinking about her. Like, we would be in the middle of a scene, and I would be wondering, where's Dell? What is she doing? When is she gonna show up again? Was constantly thinking about her. And it's not to say that I wasn't invested in what was going on. I just needed more of her. I just wanted to know more about her, get more interactions with her and Kara. I just felt starved. She was constantly in the back of my mind, like head full of Dell 24/7. And you know what? If I wanted to be petty, this would be a 4.75 out of 5 stars, but this was just too good. I guess I'll just use my imagination. This was my last bit of note when I finished the book. I said, I'm sorry, but this was excellent, fantastic. The only thing I wish for is more Dell and Kara content. I want more. I feel cheated. Crying face emoji. I totally wouldn't mind short on just them dating, TBH. And I stand by that. If you want to give it to me, Micaiah Johnson, like, hello, I'm here. If no one wants it, I want it. This was honestly the worst, best romance ever. Like, it's slow burn, but it's literally torture. At this point, I don't think slow burn is the right word. It's just torture. It's just torture. And you know, even though I was left wanting more out of the romance, like, their dynamic is just so gorgeously explored, and as you keep reading, certain things come to light to explain why their dynamic is the way it is, and it hurts, but it's just so good. Like, yes, this is what the Song of Achilles was trying to do. I'm sorry, don't hate me. This wraps up this very long tangent, I'm sure, on The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. The next book is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This book is if God had personally asked me what I would want in a vampire book, and the author hit every single bullet point and even added some in there that I didn't even know I wanted. I gave this book a solid 5 out of 5 stars, the easiest 5-star I've ever given to a book. So A Dowry of Blood Blood is a lyrical retelling of Dracula and his time spent with his brides. This book is in the point of view of his first wife, and the book is basically in the format of a letter that she writes to him, and it's a polyamorous relationship. There are 3 brides, 2 women, 1 man, and Dracula. He is never named in this book, which I think was just gorgeous. So that's all I'm gonna say about A Diary of Blood. You don't really need to know more about it. It's just about their life throughout eternity living with Dracula. If you like vampires and really good writing, like, the writing was probably one of my favorite things in this book. It is so quotable, from the writing to the characters to the setting. Everything was just so gorgeous and well crafted. Honestly, it's everything I've ever wanted. I am obsessed with vampires. If you didn't know, now you know. The theatrics, the aesthetic, the gothicness of it all. Give it all to me. This is the life that I want to live. So there's a short story written in the point of view of the husband called An Encore of Roses after the events of this book, and I also recommend reading that as well. It honestly made me connect more to him than I did in A Diary of Blood, and I love the exploration of jealousy and insecurity in a poly relationship. The next book is one of the good ones. This is YA contemporary / thriller, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Y'all, this book, why is no one talking about this book? This book is so underrated. I think it barely has 3,000 ratings on Goodreads. Why? It is so good. I'll just read some of the blurb on the dust jacket. Isn't being human enough? When teen social activist and history buff Kezzy Smith is killed under mysterious circumstances after attending a social justice rally, her devastated sister Happy and their family are left reeling in the aftermath. As Kezzy becomes another immortalized victim in the fight against police brutality, Happy begins to question the idealized way her sister is remembered. Perfect. Angelic. One of the good ones. Even as the phrase rings wrong in her mind, why are only certain people deemed worthy to be missed? Happy and her sister Jenny embark on a journey to honor Kezzy in their own way. One of the good ones. Gorgeous cover, first of all. You see this at a bookstore and you don't want to pick it up. Why? So as the blurb says, this is about 2 sisters trying to navigate their grief. This book has multiple POVs and switches from past to present, and some chapters I didn't really care for because I generally can't stand flashback chapters. Honestly, if it's not in the main storyline, just give me a summary. I don't care. The love and heartbreak and joy, the fear and anger you experience going through this book is really like no other. The authors really took a big risk with this one, but I thought it was executed brilliantly. As I said before, aside from the flashback chapters, the pacing was phenomenal and everything is revealed when it needs to be. This book is so many things, like a history lesson, multiple life lessons, a warm hug, a nightmare, a slap in the face. I'm not kidding. Like, the amount of emotions you experience going through this journey of a book, unmatched. I literally sobbed the last 3 to 4 chapters. Like, I was just sobbing the entire way through those chapters. A+ all around for this book. Please, please, please go check it out. Go read it. Again, this cover, like, can we just dedicate a few seconds to admire this cover? It's crazy because back in 2015, 2014, when I started reading, I could never have imagined a cover like this. Okay, so my battery died again. This is a few hours later into the night. It's like 11 p.m. now. Okay, the next book on my list is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is an adult contemporary and it was a 5 out of 5 stars. Gorgeous, talented, brilliant, amazing, show-stopping, never done before. This book is about a fire that erupts in Malibu during the annual big Riva party hosted by none other than McRiva's 4 children. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because Riva is actually one of the husbands and Evelyn Hugo. So the siblings are Nina, Jay, Hud, and Kit, and it also has flashbacks from the past with the mother June when she first got with Mick. So it's Taylor Jenkins Reid. If you know, you know. The girls that get it, and the ones that don't. I love this book to pieces. Honestly, I was intrigued since the first chapter. I realized I love drama, especially like fake celebrity drama. I think that's becoming a favorite genre of mine. And you know, Taylor Jenkins Reid is really taking the crown for that genre, and honestly, I'm with it. I love it. Keep doing what you're doing, Taylor Jenkins Reid, because it works and I'm obsessed with it. I feel like Taylor Jenkins Reid writes fame really well, especially in this one where there's enough glamour and enchantment while not shying away from the nitty-gritty, the real life aspect behind the curtains. I find it very impressive how Taylor Jenkins Reid was able to tell this story through multiple perspectives so effectively. Like, usually I'm against multiple perspectives. Even dual POVs gets annoying sometimes, and flashbacks as well. I already talked about them, don't like them, but it somehow worked for me here. Although every time we got a non-Reva POV, I was like, oh brother, I don't give a fuck about this person. But I was surprisingly invested at the end of their story. She managed to pull me into those little snippets of those random strangers' lives, and that's, I don't know, like, she is so talented. Loved the sibling dynamics here. So much love and openness, especially with Nina. She is my baby and I love them all. Jay was starting to give me Mick vibes a little bit, but he fixed that towards the end, so all is well. June, my main squeeze, I love her, I miss her. I just loved all of the non-Mick Revas. I feel like there's so much potential for a sequel with this book. There's just so much that we could get into. I would not say no to like a continuation of the Reva family, minus Mick Reva. I'm so sick and tired of that man, oh my god. But you know what? If someone is gonna bring the drama, it's gonna be Mick Reva. And I can't lie, I love to hate on him. There is surprisingly a lot of sex in this book, which I didn't expect, but weirdly, I also liked it, which I also didn't expect. I don't know, like, do with that what you will. The entire mystery surrounding the fire and what started it or who started it, that's teased at the beginning of the book. The reveal to that mystery was kind of underwhelming once we find out how everything goes down. But honestly, at that point in the story, I didn't even care that much because I was so much more interested and invested in the Reva kids' lives that I really didn't care about the fire anymore. Like, that was the least of my concerns. That's when you know you've got a good set of characters that can carry a story. I didn't even care about the fire at the end of it. I was just like, okay. So yeah, those were my thoughts on Malibu Rising. There's just something about Taylor Jenkins Reid books. Like, I don't know what she puts in it, if it's crack or something, but it does something to my brain where I just feel so alive, and it's so weird, but it's rare to find books like those. It's a little orangey. Should I get my ring light? Let's try it. Okay, so I stopped being lazy and got my ring light out. The lighting in this video is all crazy. I'm sorry. The next book on my list is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Adult romance. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I love this book. I devoured this book. I was engaged the entire time. It was a page turner. But anyway, having finished and thoroughly enjoyed this book, I found out that it was a Reylo fanfic, and Reylo are 2 characters from Star Wars. I don't know if it's canon. I've never watched Star Wars. I don't know anything about it. I've seen the characters and I've seen the names, but other than that, my Star Wars knowledge is very limited. Having found that out after reading the book, ignorance is bliss, because if I had known that, I probably would not have picked this book up. And looking at the cover, it makes a lot of sense. It's kind of weird now looking at it through that Reylo lens, because the main character's name is Adam, and the guy that plays Kylo Ren, his name is also Adam. It's a little weird, just a little bit. So as I said before, it's an adult romance following Olive. She's a STEM student in her doctorate. I don't know, okay? She's pursuing higher education, and it's like a fake dating thing that she has with one of the professors in her school. He's not her professor, he's just a random professor who happens to be infamous on campus. Honestly, I was enamored. I'm not gonna lie. I was enamored, I was engaged. I even felt things when they were holding hands. Like, when they were holding hands, that's when you know you got me. I love the male love interest, although how many times do you have to mention how big this man is? Come on, we get it. He's huge, he's big, he's buff, he's a man. Can we talk about something else? This is literally what I wrote about the amount of times that this man is mentioned to be big. So I said 15% in, and I'm digging it so far, but Olive baby, we gotta get you to stop talking about how physically big this man is in stature. We get it, shit, I get it. But do we need reminding every single chapter? Please, let's focus on some facial features next time. Yeah, maybe some personal interest. 15% in, and I'm already complaining about the amount of times this man is described as big. A few things that were cringy / overly mentioned. Again, Adam being big. You see how me mentioning that over and over again can get annoying? Yeah, exactly. The second thing is smartass, that nickname. At some point, it just gets corny. And the smell of clean male skin. What is it with romances these days? Like, you guys are obsessed with this distinct description. I don't even want to get into it, but please spare me. Other than that, and also the Raylo tidbit, I can look past all that. This book was so fun and I loved it. I had a good time, so 5 out of 5 stars. The next book on my list is The Color Purple by Alice Walker, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Comfort book, honestly, for a book that starts off pretty harrowingly. The found family, the characters, the humor, the community that we end up with towards the end is just so special to me. I don't think I'll ever stop thinking about this book. It's one of those books that just stay with you. If you haven't read this book yet, what are you waiting for? It's been out for decades. So if you don't know what The Color Purple is about, it's basically about these two sisters that are separated when they're very young, and we follow one of the sisters, the oldest one, Celie, writing letters about her childhood and her teenage years and her adult life, and we just basically follow her through her experiences. The character growth in this is so amazing to witness, and I will say that every single character goes through some type of growth, and we go through that journey with them. So it's so satisfying seeing them become better people and learn from their mistakes, and also find success and acceptance within their community and within themselves too, especially for a group of Black Americans in the 1920s. No one talks about how funny this book is. For a book chock full of trauma and just lots of terrible things happening, it is so funny. Like, it's so funny for no reason. And you know, nuance. Trauma, humor, that's what I call nuance. I watched the movie adaptation. It was disappointing. But anyway, read the book. Our second to last book, finally. When I first went into this book, I was like, I don't really know. It's Verity by Colleen Hoover. I really didn't expect this book to make this list, but here it is. This is an adult psychological thriller. Gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Oh my god, Miss Verity. I know you've seen this book all over BookTube, Book Talk, especially Book Talk. And honestly, I get it. So this is a fucked up psychological thriller that will probably leave you feeling like you're on every type of drugs imaginable. This was actually the best thriller that I read last year after reading a few mediocre ones. This is literally my review for this book. I generally think it's best to just go into this book knowing as little as possible. With thrillers, the point is to be thrilled, and I feel like the more I know, the less thrilled I am. As I said before, it's fucked up, psychological thriller, check the trigger warnings, and then
Dive on in. Oh, and Francine?
Don't say it.
Dive on in.
dive on it. I'm sorry. All I'm gonna say is that this book makes you feel like you're insane once you finish it. There are great plot twists and an open ending that I don't actually want to fight the author for. So props to Colleen Hoover, like she really put her foot in this book. There's some romance which I don't think was needed, and it made me feel super uncomfortable at times because of how displaced it felt. Although I will say that it is woven into the story to make sense with the events. So I guess. And also the main character was very annoying. So that's why it wasn't a 5 out of 5 stars. A+ on the thriller and suspense side. This book was very atmospheric and spooky. Our final book finally, is Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Imide. Every time I think about this book being a debut novel, I'm like, damn, Farida did the damn thing with this. This is a YA thriller, and I gave this a 4.75 out of 5 stars, and it follows our two main characters, Devin and Chiamaka. They are both black and queer, and we follow them through their senior year in a predominantly white elite private school, where they are the only two black students. First red flag right there. Both Chiamaka and Devin start getting targeted by this person online named Aces, and Aces starts revealing very private and detailed things about their lives that could potentially ruin their reputation and also ruin their chances at graduating at this elite private school. What a ride this was. This book obviously deals with racism, anti-blackness, classism, privilege, emotional abuse, manipulation, you know, the works. This book is honestly insane. The more the characters uncover, the more insane it sounds, but it's honestly very plausible because racism. Sometimes I read about America's history specifically pertaining to black Americans and I'm like, there's no way this happened. But alas, there is a way. There was a way, and it did happen. So yeah, the reveal is crazy, but it's the fact that it doesn't even seem that far-fetched that's crazier to me. Devin was going through some shit in this book. Like, it was seriously one thing after the other. At some point I was like, damn, can the little homie catch a break? So aside from the strong dark academia, elite private school atmosphere, which we were thoroughly and expertly engulfed in, I didn't really get a sense of where this story actually takes place. I don't remember if it's ever mentioned where the characters live. One tiny criticism, which might be personal because a lot of people prefer Devin over Chiamaka, I personally feel like there wasn't enough Chiamaka. I like Devin, however, as I kept reading, seeing his chapters increase in length and frequency while Chiamaka's were getting shorter and scarcer, it just made me gradually angrier because hers would be like 5 pages long while Devin's would be 15 to 20 pages long. And I'm like, Devin, you're a cool dude, but like, where's the balance? If you don't believe me or it's something that you didn't really notice, the epilogue is a perfect example of that. We get an entire morning routine from Devin and we get to see his loved ones while Chiamaka just barely gets a mention, and then the book ends there, which is fine overall because I did like Devin. I just would have preferred the same amount for Chiamaka as well. So I know I said that Ace of Spades was the last book, but I do want to give a little honorable mention to She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quinlan. This is a YA rom-com. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This was pure unrestrained teenage fun and drama, but there's also some pretty serious stuff as the MC is still trying to get over a pretty toxic ex, and the ending is kind of cheesy, but they're in high school so I'll let it slide. And also, Irene is my daughter. If you're looking for a fun YA rom-com, She Drives Me Crazy is the perfect one for you. So this video has finally come to an end. If you made it this far into the video, honestly, bless your heart, because how? This literally took me 3 days to film and I'm still editing. I'm gonna keep the conclusion short because this video is already long enough. Let me know if you read any of the books that I mentioned. Let me know if you enjoyed them or if you disliked them. Let me know if they're also on your TBR and you're planning to read them. Other than that, I will see you all soon in another video. Bye!